Blog Talk. Greetings and welcome to the Sales Sense Reality Talk Show with your host. Greetings and welcome to the Sales Sense Reality Talk Show with your host, Mike Krause. Mike has sold over $100 million in sales and offers Fortune 500 strategies, tactics, and tools to sales professionals and business leaders. He created this show with one thing in mind, for sales professionals to share their secrets with each other. Join us every Wednesday at 12 to 12:30 Eastern Time, or sign up for updates on Mike's mailing list at salessensesolutions.com. Mike appreciates you listening and wishes you good luck on your next sales call.
Well, welcome. It's Mike Krause with the Sales Sense Reality Talk Show. I'm really excited to have Sandra Dee Robinson as a today. She's an actor, including major roles on Another World, Sunset Beach, Bold and the Beautiful, General Hospital, Days of Our Lives, guest star on 2.5 Men, Criminal Minds, Secret Life of an American Teenager in TV movies, TV host and product spokesperson. She founded Charisma on Camera Media Training Studio in Los Angeles and currently assists authors, life coaches, politicians, actors, and business professionals who want to make an impact on the world. She builds their star qualities and confidence in telling of their message, and they are preparing to establish themselves as an expert guest or even their own show. So without further ado, Sandra, how are you this morning?
I'm excellent, thanks. Thank you.
Good. Well, I'm really excited because as a sales professional, we're always looking to be a little bit more polished or have that charisma, I guess. So tell us a little bit more about you and what makes you unique.
Oh, gosh, what makes me unique? I probably have a much different approach to what we would call traditional media training. I tend to focus a little bit more on helping business professionals, authors, and TV hosts to be seen pretty much as the experts that they already are. But I want them to be perceived that way. So I help them kind of bring out their star qualities, their individual strengths, their unique style, which makes them be more comfortable, which helps them just really come to tell their message from a very authentic point. And number one, it's a transition that I had a really hard time with because people look at me and they go, of course this is what you do, and of course this is easy for you to stand in front of a camera and talk into it because you were an actor. Ironically, it was exactly the opposite for me. My experience is a big part of what makes me different. My approach, it comes from this experience of me really being an actor because I had very low self-esteem, was extremely shy. And, I mean, like, it was a problem. It was a real problem how shy I was. And the stress I used to have about thinking about getting up in front of people, unless I hid behind a character. If I hid behind a character on a television show or doing anything in front of a live audience, I was okay because it was the character that was getting the accolades. It was the character that it was getting the attention. It was the character that would get the criticism, whatever it was. It was a step removed from me, so I was protected. And when I first started, I was recognized, and so I had a following on some of the shows, particularly the daytime shows, and you read off almost the entire list of them there. So I've done a lot. But when you have a following, they tend to ask you to stand up and represent products and things and stand up for charities. And, of course, I wanted to do those things, and I pushed myself through it, but it was just traumatizing for me. I mean, I went through the same thing that a lot of my clients do. I had the shaky knees. I had the butterflies. I had literally blacking out from memory on stage. I would watch videos of me doing presentations and doing, spokesperson stuff, and I wouldn't remember doing any of it because I was so terrified. And to think back, if somebody had actually reached me with the type of instruction that I give, that many years earlier, how different my career or my life could be, because it changes everything. It changes the way you handle yourself in business. If you go through this kind of training and you're preparing for a video or to launch a product or a DVD of instructions, whatever it is, that you want to get yourself home, so you work on this, you'll find that it changes a lot of times the way you act in life. So if you stand up at a networking event and you give your pitch, suddenly you have a different way about you. You're more memorable. People tend to really get attracted to people that are coming from an authentic place. So it's great fun for me because I get to help people get through a transition that took me 7 years, and I get them through it really a lot quicker. So.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there with regards to when you're in sales. We are kind of acting in a way, and we're bringing up it is acting, and we're creating a different character, and we have to be on. And when out in public and you're representing companies, you have to be on, and it's like being in front of a camera. But I know there's a huge difference between being in front of the camera and being in front of a one-on-one meeting. That definitely is that. Is there some tips that someone could maybe make that transition that you help? I mean, after 7 years of going through that pick and shovel work, I like to call it, now you have a system that can help people. I mean, there's some things that I know myself when I get in front of a camera, it's totally different.
It is,
just,
yeah. Well, it's interesting the way you say it. It's funny you call it pick and shovel work because I'm laughing. I mean, I think of me with like, if I work with tools, how I end up with black and blues all over my hands because I'm real klutz when it comes to that. I hand everything over to my husband. I'm like, here, not my strong point. And certainly I had a lot of bruises going through those 7 years of, trying to work through my fears and get comfortable and all of that. The biggest thing that I can tell people about looking into a camera is it is a one-on-one conversation. And a lot of times people will look into that big black lens, and this goes for people that speak in front of live audiences as well. And when I say live audiences, I mean I have people that have taught, they're experts in their field, and they're coaches. And one of the first women that I worked with in my business was somebody that had trained at college, and she had trained one of these huge classes, with the stadium seating, and she had stood in front of a couple of hundred people several times a week for several years. And I asked her to shoot me a video so that I could work. I worked with her long distance via Skype, and I can do that for people. So it doesn't really matter if you're in LA or not. I can work with you. And she sent me over a video on Skype, and we were reviewing it as we sat together. And she had nothing going on. She just could not relate to the camera. There was no energy. And she was amazed at how she came across. And I had to work with her on understanding that her problem is a lot of people there's no reaction. You get used to speaking one-on-one with somebody if you're in outside sales, and I did that for a while. I took a break from my business and thought I'd be responsible, and I did outside sales I was in the real estate and mortgage field. And wow, I'm really glad I did it. I made money. I was not happy, but when you talk about being an actor and being able to pull it up and really just, no matter where you are there, I mean, believe me, you're doing sales, there are times the last thing in the world you want is to walk through that door and talk to somebody or, try to get your spiel on. And so you really do have to learn how to, suck it up and put on that face but be authentic in it. Otherwise it's just not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And, oops, I feel like I'm getting off topic. Make sure I don't do that. Pull me back.
No,
I'm
you're
ADD,
fine.
which is a good thing, but sometimes I get off. The
So
number
am
one
I.
thing is, okay, good. Between the two of us, we'll have lots of conversations. But I think coming back to how to relate, when you get used to having that feedback from a regular conversation one-on-one, or if you're speaking to a group of people, you get used to having that reaction of people looking back at you, knowing where they are in the moment. And people get freaked out because they look at a camera and they don't see that. There's nothing there. It feels like it's sucking their soul. It's a big black hole that they're looking into. And so what I try to help them do is understand that on the other side of that lens is somebody that you really need to help. And when you're in sales, that's what it is. You want to be able to, you're helping people. You can't look, obviously, I mean, you've probably heard this 1,000 times, but you are offering a product to somebody, a product or service, no matter what it is that you're selling, and that thing will help make their life better. So, if it's that, or if I have experts or heads of charities that I'm working with and their, goal is to change the world, the point is the one person that they need to reach is on the other side of that tool, which is a camera lens. And so I relate it sometimes like this. If you're going to have a one-on-one conversation with somebody that really needs to be helped and they have a wall or a closed door between you and them, you can't see them. But are you not going to try to get through to them? Are you not going to talk to that closed door because you know they're on the other side? And you need to have that conversation. Well, you need to have that conversation with these people if they're just on the other side of that lens. So then suddenly I tell people, look into that lens, and that person that you most need to reach is on the other side. And if that doesn't get them, quite 100% there, a lot of times I'll have somebody, particularly if they're a coach or someone who is able to relate to one individual. I said, is there somebody in your life that you have helped with what you do? And usually they'll say yes. I said, I want you to get really specific in the moment. Find one person that you helped. Find that moment of whether they were grateful or joyful or happy or whatever it was. Find that moment. Remember everything about it. Remember the tone of their voice. Remember the temperature of the room. What were they wearing? What time of day was it? How happy did they sound? What was the expression on their face, and how did you feel? And I take them back there, and I get them remembering that moment. Now I said, okay, if you ever want to have that moment again, that person is on the other side of that lens, and I want you to talk to them. And that usually gets them there. And then they watch it back. Most of the stuff that I do, I have people watch back right away. And you can do this at home, too, if you have a flip camera. Try these things at home and then watch yourself back right away. And sometimes if you're not used to watching yourself, it's a little tough to get through it initially, which is why, having a coach, I kind of I force people to take their hands away from their eyes and actually watch it. But you learn what looks good and what doesn't. You can say, oh, okay. They'll see the difference, and that's really what's important is just getting a certain relationship going with that lens. It is a one-on-one conversation.
It's so true, and I do remember something because I'm sure you've probably heard of the movie Caddyshack, and Rodney Dangerfield, that was his first movie, and when he went out in front of the camera, now Rodney Dangerfield has been up to thousands of people at this point in his career, et cetera, and then he started sweating in front of the camera. And there was 100 people. You've been on your fair share of movie sets. There's people all over the place.
Oh yeah.
And no one was laughing. No one was reacting. He started sweating, and he goes, "What's going on? No one's laughing. I'm a failure. I'm a failure." And he goes, "We can't laugh because of the sound here."
Right.
But even Rodney Dangerfield has these problems. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of
It's not getting that feedback, not getting that immediate gratification of response. Yeah.
Yes. And the same is true with webinars. If you've ever hosted a webinar out there, it's you're talking into your computer. And there's nothing there. It's definitely a different way of life, and your coaching is definitely critical. And it's always going to a coach. I think is the most critical thing is reaching out and getting that second opinion when you're dealing with a coach, because you don't know you can't see yourself. You don't know what you're doing wrong because you're with yourself all day.
Right. And even if you do watch yourself back on video, a lot of times there's something that I nicknamed the tunnel of self-deprecation. And it's kind of funny. Let me explain real quickly. There is a period of time that if you have not watched yourself on video, and this is male, female, like all ages, all experiences, all fields of expertise, there is a time that you must get through, because a lot of people will look at that the first time that they see themselves moving in action on a moving, on a screen, and they freak out. They see things that no one else sees. They're very self-critical. A woman might say, "Oh, well, I blink my eyes too much," or a guy says, "I move around, I do funny things with my hands, I look stiff, I look this," and that's all they see. And so it's up to me to kind of get them through, and I call it a tunnel of self-deprecation, because the longer you watch yourself, especially if you have someone like a coach who gets you through that, you do come out the other side, and then all of a sudden you'll be able to look at your videos objectively and start to give yourself credit for the good things that you're doing, and you realize that the things that you thought people were looking at, they never noticed in the first place, like the blinking of the eyes or the hand gestures or something. And even if you were doing more than you usually do, it's usually brought on by nerves, and as you work, that stuff starts to go away. But you have to get through that initial viewing of yourself, and a lot of times it takes someone to push you through that, because you'd rather not watch it, so you just blow it off and you go along, you go on without watching yourself, and you really learn the most from doing that. I put it off for years with my acting career. I couldn't watch myself for about 4 years until I realized it wasn't getting me anywhere.
You just took the question. I wanted to always ask that, because I've always heard that's true with actors, that they never watch themselves.
I hated it. I hated it. I would prefer not to. But I realized that I had one instructor, and kind of like with hosting, I mean, I always pulled on coaches no matter what. And some of them were great, and some of them didn't click, and you kind of got to find who clicks with you. It's like anything. It's like finding a doctor that you're comfortable with, or you have to, or a church or a pastor, or you have to find what fits for you. So I had one coach, an acting coach actually, that got through to me in the value of viewing yourself. And basically said, "Well, how stupid are you? How do you know what you're doing unless you're watching it?" And so I had to sit there. And at first, I had my hands over my eyes and I was peeking through my fingers because I couldn't stand it. but I got through my tunnel of self-deprecation, and it was good, because then you can really, once you get through that and you're able to look at yourself a little more objectively, you can really start to make the changes, and you see yourself maturing in style, and really. I call it your visual brand when you're watching yourself on camera. And this goes for people that are doing even something as simple as a video blog, or which is a very powerful way. I mean, depending on your business, video blog can be extremely helpful. I just was helping coach a real estate agent here who had just this really bubbly personality. She was just a funny thing, and she said, "Oh, it's great that you're here talking today." I spoke in front of her networking group, and she said, "It's great that you were here. I've been thinking about this kind of thing for myself because my boyfriend is a comedian, and I've been shooting all this stuff for him, and he's doing this whole series of blogs and blah, blah, blah." And so I talked to her and said, very competitive business, real estate. And I said, your personality, and I said, why don't you consider this? And I showed her a really different way of doing video of houses that she is, that she's involved with. And I said, actually take people through the house and kind of with your personality take them like, here's, can you imagine sitting yourself here? This is the breakfast nook, sitting here and having some mimosas in the morning or whatever. And she said, oh my gosh, that's so much fun. And that was her particular style. That was her visual brand. And so showcasing that through video will really make her stand out, as opposed to everybody else that might be showing that and doing your basic, video tour that real estate agents do, which shows the house. But she's actually taking them on an experience through the house with her, which, A, makes them want to work with her, and B, showcases the house in a way that people may not have actually seen it. So, video can be very powerful. I don't care what your business is. Even if you just have a video on your website, what it does is build trust and recognition so much faster than any written word. We focus on moving pictures a lot more than we do on anything written.
I agree with that. I mean, that's just how we started learning,
Yeah.
We learned color, we learned pictures, and then words came along. So definitely the image. And it's so easy compared to like 15 years ago. I mean, there wasn't a YouTube, and YouTube, I think, is only 5 years old. There wasn't a flip phone that you could go buy for $100 and then instantly upload a video. I mean, there wasn't this technology.
Yeah.
And that's probably a good transition. What kind of technology and what's the good cameras, the bad cameras, what to avoid?
I can tell you now, this is going to come. When I tell you what to avoid, there may be some people out there going, oh, that's so not true. But I'm going to tell you right now, and I do have a few people I know on my side, using the camera on like the MacBook camera. Like I'm looking at my laptop right now, and it has a little video camera on it. That's fine if it's all you've got. But there's something about that. It's very flat. It tends to distort you a bit. If you lean into the camera that's actually on your computer, it can really look a little funky and a little weird. Plus, it's very difficult to move that or maneuver that to an area where you can set it up and know that you look good. It's really simple to look good in your video blogs, but the first thing you got to do is just find yourself a camera. And here's the funny thing. I have a great camera that I use in the studio. I don't use that necessarily for my video blogs. All you need is a flip cam, like you said, a $99 thing. I'm trading in my iPhone today for the new iPhone that has the video in it. And then I can actually just use my iPhone. And then you plug it in. It doesn't take an expensive piece of equipment. But what you want if you're going to be doing this is make it easy for yourself. Have something that you can basically just plug and play. Plug it in your computer. It goes in. You can just send it off. I'm so untechnically savvy. I have a VA that I send all my stuff to, and she uploads it to my YouTube channel, and she uploads it to my website. And it's worth it to me, because if it were to be me uploading that stuff, the time it would take me to do something that simple, for me it's easier to have my assistant do it. But, or you can also use something called You Send It, and you can send even big files over there, and the people can download it, and they can modify it on their end to whatever usage they want. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. It makes it really simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. And as far as looking good in a video, if you're going to do a video blog, if you're going to do it from your office, your home, wherever you're going to be, think of two things. How's it going to sound? Shooting outside is great. The problem with that, a lot of times, is sound. And you'd be amazed at how, unless you have a separate microphone, you're going to pick up the neighbor's dog. You're going to pick up, the people mowing their lawn 3 blocks down. I mean, it picks up everything. There'll always be that unexpected plane that flies over just as you're getting to your main point. And then you're going to be stuck maybe editing. And you don't want to edit if you don't have to. You want to keep it simple. So find a place indoors where it's nice, quiet, and the lighting is good. Find out what time of day. If you like this particular sofa in the corner of your office, find out what time of day the light looks best there. A lot of times it'll be in the earlier morning or late afternoon because the light's softer. And you want to look good. You know, don't put yourself at your desk with one light bulb over your head. You don't have to look scary, and then keep your chin down. It always looks more flattering to have your eyes going straight into camera and your chin down. Showcases your bone structure, and it's easier to make eye contact with you. And remember, it's a one-on-one conversation, so you don't want to have your chin up. You want to have your chin down so you can actually look like you're talking right to somebody.
Yeah, the chin down.
Yeah.
The editing is something you bring up, and is it okay to there's I've read some things out there that says, it doesn't have to be perfect.
No.
In fact, if it looks like it's perfect, people get a little bit less impressed. I mean, I don't know if that's true or false, and everyone has their opinion, but
it is. It comes back to being authentic. If you
okay.
stumble in your words, I tell people don't redo it. Let a stumble be in there. Let an or an show. It's totally fine. That's how you talk. So you want to be able to be authentic. That's where the building of the trust comes in.
Yeah, trust is the key, as we all know in relationships and in sales. That is true. Let's jump over to social media. That's the big curiosity out there for a lot of people in sales and in business and video, and I know you're big into it. Is it working for you? And people usually, because I do some seminars on that, Mike, is anyone making money on it? I'll ask you that question first.
Well, the best example of somebody making money with social media and video would be Gary Vaynerchuk. And if anybody out there doesn't know Gary, I had the pleasure of interviewing him. You think I'm ADD and in fast speaking. He's like insane, but I love him. He's great. And he speaks all over. He talks about his success with video and building a business, a multi-million-dollar business through that. And he's an extreme example. Not many people can do what he did because he made the marketing of his videos and his social networking his job in the beginning. He spent probably 7, 8, maybe more hours a day really working the social networks and having conversations with people. And then the videos came along, which only, pushed him to the forefront that much more. But his regular blog is Wine Library TV, and he's the guy that's just really down to earth. He uses sometimes rough language. He's your anti-wine expert type, to be doing wine expert show. It's really kind of fun. But he's really down to earth. He gives his reviews on wine in layman's terms, and he has great guests on. But his blog, even now, is so simple. It's him sitting at his desk with a bottle of wine, and he puts a little thing behind him. A lot of times it's messages. It's a blackboard, and he has some messages up there. And that's the only advertising that he does on his show. That, and of course the guests that come in. Sometimes he'll have people that are representing, certain vineyards, of course, that come in and talk about their wine. But that's really it. And what the video will do, and he has turned, by the way, in short, he has a book out that you can actually get his whole story. And I offer this up to people too. It's called Crush It. And
right, I have heard of that. Yes,
yeah,
okay.
And it's a really easy read. It's a great book, and it really gets you excited about what's possible. And he says, one of the things he says is, it used to be that you had to have 5, 10 years to have a successful business as an entrepreneur. It's not like that anymore. You can accomplish a successful business in a very short period of time. You don't need to do all the traditional setting up that we did. You don't need to have a brick and mortar. You can do things with a little thinking outside of the box, which is definitely what he did. See, what happened was his family had a liquor store, a regular liquor store, and on the corner. And he noticed that people would come in and they would constantly be very, very loyal to their brand of vodka or whiskey, and they would come and grab it off the shelf and leave. And when it came for them to come buy wine, they were always kind of milling around in the aisle, as we all do, going, okay, not really knowing. And so he started to help people, and that's, through that is kind of where he came up with Wine Library TV, and it drew so much attention through how he was working the social networks and actually engaging in conversations with people, finding groups that had a similar interest and engaging in conversations, really being present, that's how you build on that. And what video does is you can link video. You can put video on your website. You can then put it on a YouTube channel. It's not difficult to get a YouTube channel, but what that does is it raises your search engine. It raises the SEO. So in other words, your search engines will find you much faster if there's video involved. If you have an expert that's working with your website, of course they can really, make that happen. But there's another thing called Tube Mogul, and that will separate from YouTube will actually get your videos out there and help it go viral. The more people click on your video, the more you can put it up on Facebook. You can even, if I'm not mistaken, you might even be able to do it on Twitter now. But people click on videos on Facebook, something like, I don't know, 80% more than they do if they, a much higher percentage more on that than they will on a link to an article. They'll click on a video. The thing about doing a video, though, if you're going to have them click on it, is another little quick tip: you got to catch somebody in about 7 seconds.
Is that the rule? 7 seconds? Yeah.
Think about it yourself.
Boy, we are
click on
so.
A video, you give it 3 to 7 seconds really before you go, okay, not for me, and then you're done. So if people wait to give their juicy stuff, their fun stuff, their good stuff until a minute in, we're never going to see it.
It's so true. I mean, we live in an ADD society now, and Twitter's not helping things with 140 characters or less. So
I know.
It's just insane, And I've read Malcolm Gladwell Blink, and he calls it intuitive repulsion. You basically have 3 seconds. It's just insane how, and you know that in your personal life. You've met someone, you didn't feel good, and you gave them the benefit of the doubt, and then what happened? It didn't work out, did it?
Yep.
It's that blink, it's that millisecond of time, that's for sure. So,
yeah.
What else can you share with the listeners on with the video and some of your trials and tribulations?
Oh gosh. Well, I'll share with you. How about this? When I tell people that I help them come from an authentic place, I'll share some of my pain and how I had a breakthrough one day. And this is kind of funny. I had mentioned that I was asked to be a spokesperson because I had a following on some of the shows that I was on. And so they asked me to do an infomercial. I had a co-host on this one, and I'm pretty sure it was a skincare line. All I remember is it was a long shoot day. We had some technical problems, had to reshoot some things, and an infomercial. While they're great money, we try to keep it, actors try to keep it a little quiet sometimes. It's our hush money. But a lot of us do it, and it's a lot of times there's a lot of words and a lot of copy, as we call it, and it's all scripted. And so they're running this teleprompter, and I'm going through it all day long, and then about, halfway through the day or more, people are really tired. And you ever get really punchy when you're tired, right? And you get into that, something makes you crack up, and then you can't recover.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that happened. That happened with us, and it happened with me, and I couldn't recover. And instead of stopping, I just kept going, thinking they're going to yell cut any second, and I kind of laughed my way through everything, and I went through the copy, and I finished it, and they said, and we're out. And they came over to me, and I thought, oh, my good Lord, I just cracked up. These people are going to fire me. I'm never going to work for this company again. And they came over, and they said, that was fantastic. Can you do it all over again like that?
No.
And I thought, are you kidding? I didn't even say the words right. I laughed in the middle of it, and I thought to myself, oh, my goodness. I felt like I was doing nothing, and that's exactly how it should feel. It's exactly how it should feel.
Natural, but that's what working with a coach like yourself is. You just can't jump and go. It always makes sense when you're hearing that. Like maybe some of the listeners are going nodding their head. Well, until you actually set up the camera and do it a couple of times, then you can have that conversation. But it's these little things that make a huge difference. And again, going back to that 3 to 7 second rule, I mean, it's so fast. It's so fast.
It is so fast. And sometimes, we hold tension in our bodies in ways that we're not aware of, but it comes across when someone's watching. So it can, it's so freeing to be able to get over that, to realize where you're holding yourself back. And sometimes it takes someone on the outside to actually point that out and say, okay, here's what, this will help you get over that. And then when you see the difference and you realize that there's no stopping you, that you can have all this freedom, then you're opening up a whole different, if you haven't used video yet, you'll realize you can open up a whole different way of just propelling yourself into another level of your career or of your business. You reach so many more people with your message.
Absolutely. We're closing down here, and I want you to share how to get a hold of you with the listeners and see if you can help them and go from there.
Sure, yeah, and there's lots of free training and stuff, and you'll find shows like this, interviews. You'll also find downloadable stuff on my website, which is charismaoncamera.com. That's CHARISMA, oncamera.com. You can also follow me as Sandra Dee Robinson. You can find me on Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook, and You can follow me there. I'd love to, start conversations with you in the social networks because that's what we're talking about here. So definitely hook up with me, and you can see, how I can work with you no matter where you are. We've got workshops, we've got classes, we've got private sessions, and we actually do have the ability to work via Skype. And I'm not totally sure we have that whole series of Skype actually up on the website, but you can contact us through there, and we can give you the information on that.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, Sandra, for taking time out of your busy day. I've learned a lot, and I wish everyone good luck on their next sales call, and thanks again for listening. And thank you, Sandra.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, Michael.
Have a great day now. Bye.
Bye-bye.